Hi everyone, if you're new, my name is Victoria Fernandez and I make videos about mental health and my experience with bipolar disorder and OCD. In this week's video, I'm going to be talking about what I did to improve my mental health after an experience in the past 6 months where my mental health had kind of, been deteriorating once again. For background knowledge, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and OCD when I was around 17 years old, so I think that was in 2015. So I've been stable for a long time, but recently I started working and, it was first job out of college, a lot of things were happening, and it started affecting my mental health a lot. And so if you want to know more about that, it's on my last video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I'm kind of getting out of that, that space mentally, the things that I'm doing and that I've been doing so far. So in the last video, I talked about how, I've been so much better and all this kind of stuff. But since I filmed that, I realized that yes, although I had been making a lot of progress, I just wasn't there yet. I'd be some days at work, I would be okay and trying to be motivated, and then there were other days at work where I was just like staring to the wall and just not okay. So, that was really hard, and that's when I decided to try and get to the level where I want to be, feeling better, feeling like I have more energy. I decided to take some time off and just focus on myself, focus on my mental health, improving it, resting, recharging. And that's kind of like the last step that I've done so far in getting to a stable place where I want to be. So from the beginning of, I was like last September, I was all good, just moving to a new city, super excited, and all that kind of stuff. Then things, they were great in the friends section, and with my husband and everything, all that was great. But then when it came to this area of my life, which is huge, it wasn't great. And so I started noticing that I wanted to take naps all the time. I was crying, I was having panic attacks. I was just not okay. Like, I didn't want to go to work. I was working, it was just not an ideal situation. And then those were kind of like the signs that I was like, okay, wait, hold on. I'm not okay. Like, I started noticing these things. Like, why am I so anxious before every meeting? Why am I crying? Why do I not want to go to work? Like, all these things shouldn't be that way. And that's when I was like, I need to find help, I need to find help, I need to find help. Because knowing myself, I know what it is to be, 100% stable. 100%, obviously nothing's ever perfect, but I think in my stability, where I'm happy, I'm good, most days are good, and like all that kind of stuff. Like, I know what it's like to be there. So when I realized I wasn't, I was like, okay, alert mode. I need to do everything I can to not fall back to where it was. Of course, like nowadays, like whenever I'm struggling with my mental health, it's different than whenever I was first diagnosed. That time I had never been on medications, not just the medication part of it, but I had never been diagnosed, treated, nothing like that. I had gone to a psychologist, but that wasn't enough at that point. So it's a whole different scenario nowadays, but I was noticing myself just not being okay, and I was like, I cannot be like this, I cannot be trying to escape the situation and all that kind of stuff, and there was just so much around it. So I went to a psychiatrist. I was moving to a new city, I still didn't have a psychiatrist. I went to a psychiatrist. I, started therapy again because I had stopped. So those were things. I had stopped therapy. Like, another sign was like I wasn't eating well, I wasn't working out, I was not taking care of myself, which led me to like not being, obviously I wasn't in the best place ever. But the first thing I did was that, like, put the alarms on. I need help. I told, the doctor. I started seeing that I was having some physical symptoms, which oftentimes that comes from stress and from not being emotionally okay. So I started getting sick and all that kind of stuff. So I'm telling people like, hey, like, I'm not doing great, I'm not doing great, I'm not doing great. And here and there, like, I started finding emotional support, not only with my friends and my family, but also with like co-workers, people who, you know, were really there to support me, people who were like, you know, I'm here for you, you can talk to me. And that was super, super, super important for me to kind of stay afloat, find solutions, you know, try to like keep it up there until we found something more permanent, something to really improve my mental health. So that really helped. I started going to, you know, we have amazing groups at Google. We have like we have groups, you know, for people with mental illnesses, and so I found a big community in that, and that was absolutely fantastic. That helped me a lot because it was a place where I could share what I was going through, and I realized that I wasn't alone in this, that going through these patches of, you know, struggles at like work, while a lot of things are changing in life, is more common than I realized. So at first I was feeling super alone, but then when I realized that I wasn't the only one going through this, that there had been other people before me, or there are people currently, you know, going through something like that, I was like, okay, I'm not alone. So in that front, it helped me get a little better. But you know, I was still struggling. So another thing that I started doing was that I not only was talking about it, not only did I start therapy again, which started to help me feel better, but I also like realized, you know, this is not my mental illness, like this is caused by things that are happening around me, and that's such an important thing to understand as somebody who has a mental illness. Life is hard sometimes, and not everything is going to be like, you know, about our diagnosis. I think, of course, those kind of things can make it harder sometimes, but realizing when something is due to a chemical imbalance, or when something is due to like, oh, something it's going on, like literally going on, is super important to try and find the right solutions. So after getting help, of course, like, you know, things start to get better. I was really voicing like, hey, I'm struggling, and that was really, you know, I was getting help from the people that I needed to get help from. So super, super important is to always be like an advocate for yourself, because if you don't advocate for yourself, nobody else will do it for you. Or, you know, people will try, but you have to be the one that's like proactively talking about it, or getting the help, going to therapy, taking your meds, like all that kind of stuff. That is like super important. So I was definitely doing that. Then I put things into perspective. I was in certain events that we had at work that made me really excited, that had to do a lot with my passions. So that was really helpful, surrounding myself with the ideas of like passions of mine and things that make me smile, things that make me happy. Super important. So that's another thing, finding things that make you happy. Because if you're in a place where you're not getting that, you need to find other sources that will give that to you. Because if not, you're just, you know, you're kind of like in a hole, and you have to like get yourself out of it. So there's that. That was like super important for me. Another thing was the physical, like, you know, working out, taking care of my physical health, not just like my mental health, but like if you take care of your physical health, what you eat, how much you work out, that kind of stuff, it also impacts your mental health. And working out, you know, that's different from everybody. Some people like to dance, some people like to walk, some people like to lift weights. Whatever it is, it's something that's going to help. And you're not going to feel like it helps at first. Like for me, for example, I was super into like taking care of my physical health when I was back in high school. Then I kind of stopped, and then it was really hard for me to get back to that. And I was like, oh, this is so annoying, like all this kind of stuff. But realizing the impact that it could have on my mental health, I started following accounts on Instagram that talked about body positivity, that talked about, you know, like fitness, but not in a toxic kind of way, but rather like in a positive way, and like all this kind of stuff. Slowly I started seeing that my brain, the way that I perceived, you know, working out and stuff like that, started changing, and the thoughts turned into actions. And now like it's something that I enjoy so much, I look forward to so much, and it brings me so much joy. Like just working out, like it makes me really, really happy, and I know that it helps my mental health so much, because it just does. So it's like if you're having trouble with that, what I did was like exposing my brain to people who do it, people who have positive advice, people who are not toxic positivity, but like really, like, genuinely, like, their content made me happy, and then I started buying little things, and then I started buying, like, outfits, and then, like, suddenly that became action, and then in turn that became something that was helping my mental illness and my mental health. And lastly, after doing all those things, suddenly, like, things, just the puzzle kind of started, like, coming together. Things started to improve. I started to feel better, but as I said in the beginning, I was just not there yet. But I think it's because sometimes when we go through a lot of changes, through different difficulties, in whatever area of life, we need to give ourselves a little break and step back to kind of fully recharge, to fully, you know, be present, be better, because you can't just, like, switch off everything you felt, everything you've gone through, like it never happened. Maybe some people can, but I personally couldn't. A lot with, you know, the want, or the, you know, should I take time for myself? Like, is this something I need to do? Like, is this bad? How is this going to impact me? But ultimately, with a lot of guidance and help from people that, you know, have impacted me so much at work, and in my personal life, it was like, you know, this might be the best decision, just some time off, focus on my mental health, going to therapy, taking care of myself, so that when I come back, I can be fully present, I can be the best that I am, I can be more motivated. And of course, life isn't perfect, nothing is ever perfect, but, you know, I'm starting to detach from everything that happened, and I'm very hopeful that this decision is, you know, going to help me in the long run. So I will obviously keep you guys updated with that, but I do feel like I am in a way better place than I was before. And the key to that is to never, ever, ever stop fighting for your mental health, because you have to be your biggest advocate. Nobody else. Sometimes people don't even realize that you're struggling, and so you have to be the one that's vocal. And I know and I understand how hard that can be and how vulnerable that is. Through my journey, I've realized that so many more people than we used to know struggle with their mental health, and people just kind of, like, my therapist says that people kind of wear a mask and they go throughout life, you know, kind of hiding their feelings, hiding their struggles. But the reality is that everybody struggles with something. Sometimes the best way to overcome is by having that human connection with somebody else, by sharing your experiences and feeling like you're not alone. Because when you do that, people can share, oh, this is what I've done to make me feel better, or like, it's just so nice to not be by myself. And that's what I found. That's where I found comfort in people who have gone through the same thing, who can understand the struggles and who have overcome through my past experiences and the, you know, obviously the things I've gone through. I know that there is always a light in the tunnel, and I know I say that at the end of every video, but it's so true. I understand that even though, you know, I've gone through this moment that hasn't been so easy, I will get through it. There will be better times. I will improve. I will be, like, you know, successful where I want to be. I will get to where I want to be. I know this is just a bump in the road, and that's okay. It's going to happen. Like, that's life. And I'm learning so much from it, and to hopefully, you know, be the best version of myself that I can be. So with that, if you like this video, please don't forget to like it and comment and subscribe. It also helps me be seen by other people and helps us grow. And as always remember that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and a bad day does not mean a bad life.